and welcome, my friends, to the Workday Playday podcast. Hello to my peeps. It's your host, Erin, and today, my friends, we are tackling a big one, resilience. Now, I want you to think about it. When was the last time that your team faced a curveball, a major setback, a moment where things did not go as planned? Now, if you've been in leadership for more than 5 minutes, I know you've been there. But what if I told you that the secret to resilience wasn't just about pushing through? It was about playing through. You just hit play on the Workday Playday podcast. You didn't think we weren't going to talk about playing, right? So I want you to stick with me because today we are diving into how improv, and yes, I said improv, holds the key to building teams that don't just survive challenges, but thrive through them. So I just want to recognize you because if you're here, I already know something about you. You are a people leader who cares about your team, your community, your association. You're not just checking boxes. You want to create an environment where your team can do their best work, feel supported, and navigate challenges with confidence. Now, let's be real here. That is easier said than done. We all know that. Work is unpredictable. Change is the only constant. And resilience, my friends, it's not just a buzzword. It is essential. So today's problem we are solving is the hard truth about resilience. And here's one hard truth for you about it. Most teams are not naturally resilient. That is a hard pill to swallow, my friends. And gulp, I am taking it down because most teams are not resilient. They get stuck. They resist change. They struggle with uncertainty. And when things go sideways, because they always do, many teams either shut down or scramble to react without a plan. But what if resilience wasn't something that your team just had to figure out? What if there was a proven, engaging way to build it into your team's DNA? And that, my friends, my Workday Playday peeps, is where improv comes in. Today, I'm going to give you a 4-step improv-infused framework to strengthen your team's ability to adapt, collaborate, and thrive no matter what comes their way. Let's get into it, y'all. All right. The 4-step improv framework for building resilient teams. Get ready, because number 1, first and foremost, if you have listened to this show, if you have any idea what improv comedy is, you are going to step 1 in this framework, embrace the yes and mindset. So resilient teams don't resist change. They know change is constant and they respond to it. Improv teaches that success isn't about avoiding failure. It's about responding to it. So the yes and mindset, just a quick refresher if you're new to the show. It means I'm going to listen to your idea, and instead of negating it, I'm going to say thank you with that yes. And then the and is I'm going to add something to it. Yes and is a teaching tool that we use in our improv-infused training sessions to help people understand the concept. But once you understand the concept, you can drop the yes and you can say other synonyms that are similar to yes to move the conversation forward and make people feel seen, heard, and valued. So let me just give you a quick example. So let's say I go to my manager and her name is Susan, because my examples are always named Susan. Hey, Susan, I have a great idea for a summer party for the team. And Susan responds to me with, no, I don't have a budget for that, Erin. Am I going to feel confident to go back to Susan and ask her for ideas or not ask her for ideas or give her ideas and see what she thinks? Or am I going to be innovative and go to her with more ideas? The answer is probably no, I'm not. But if I go to Susan and I say the same thing, hey, Susan, I got a great idea for a summer party for our team here. And Susan goes, you know what, Erin, that sounds awesome. I don't have time this week to talk about it, but look on my calendar and put something on there for next week and we'll make it happen. She's not agreeing to the idea of the party. She's not told me yes. However, what she has done is yes anded me without using those words to make me feel seen, heard, and valued. And like my ideas matter so that when we meet next week, she's going to give me her undivided attention. And even in that meeting, if she does not go with any of my ideas, she has still taken the time to hear me out. So that yes and mindset is the first step in helping you build a resilient team. You have to have this mindset in place. And you know, we love to gamify things around here. So I have an activity for you pulled from one of our workshops that is going to help you reinforce this yes and mindset and do it with adaptability in mind. Okay. This is still yes and without saying yes and. It's called word at a time story. So you can get your team together and you're going to give them this suggestion. Hey, we're going to come up with a story that has never before been told. What's the title of this story? And they will give you any story that comes to mind. A lot of times I see teams using inside jokes as the title of their story, which is really fun. So let's say it's because we love chicken hats and chicken dancing around here at Improve It. The chicken that crossed the road with grace. Okay, that just came to me. So you'll get your team lined up in a straight line facing forward horizontally. And the first person is going to say a word. And the second person is going to say another word. And the third person is going to say another word so that together they are forming a sentence or paragraphs, if you will, about this story. So the first person could say the second person could say chicken, the third person could say crossed. The fourth person could say the fifth person could say road. And then it would go back to person one and they would start a new sentence. So you let this play out for 3 to 4, 5 sentences tops, and you clap and you ask them, what do we have to do to make this work? Well, we have to acknowledge the person before us's idea, which is a part of this 4-step framework, yes-anding each other. We had to drop control because a lot of times people who like to talk, your girl, we also like to control conversations and we like to think about the next thing that's going to be said. This activity does not allow it. This activity allows you to embrace that yes and mindset by listening intently to what your person or scene partner next to you says, your coworker. Add to it and create something beautiful together. So if you want to build resilience, this is a great way to infuse improv into a team meeting, take it back to your teams, allow the team to do it. It's a fun way to start a meeting. And then you can use this debrief from the activity. So a couple questions you could ask is, was that hard? Was that easy? What did we have to do in order to make it work? And how does this activity allow us to think about resilience? Well, I couldn't, pre-plan or get overly anxious about anything because I had no idea what was coming down the pipe or down the sentence line. Same thing with resilience. Sometimes you don't know what curveballs are going to come your way. So you just have to be prepared and you have to think quickly in that moment, postpone judgment of yourself and postpone judgment of others. And you have to listen to the people around you's ideas and use all of the ideas to come together to form this really beautiful story. When we use all of our ideas as a team to come together and work through and solve problems, especially when curveballs come our way, true magic can happen. And guess what's going to happen when all team members use their voice and everyone's voice is heard? They're going to feel good. And when they feel good, when they show up and they feel good, that's when productivity starts to go up. And when productivity starts to go up, you, the team, the people, the organization thrive. So that's step one, embracing that yes and mindset. Now, in our 4-step framework for building resilient teams, I have got number 2 for you. It is all about building psychological safety. Teams thrive when they feel safe to take risks. And leaders who celebrate learning from failure build more resilient teams. Now, if you have listened to this show for a long time, I don't know if you know this, the show used to be called the Failed It Podcast because I was really leaning into failure because we started this show in April of 2020 when nothing was going right in our business because the pandemic forced us to shut down all of our in-person events. We didn't have a digital leg to stand on, my friends. So I leaned into this concept of failure so much, which is actually one of the frameworks of improv comedy. We say on stage, there are no mistakes, only gifts. We leaned into this concept so much that we created a podcast about it and we created something internally that we still do. We have failure parties. Okay. And this is an activity I would love for you to take back to your team to celebrate the fact that you are trying. Failure means that you are innovating. Without failure, you are not trying. Things are just staying the same. They are so simple to do. Here's an easy way to start a team meeting by having a failure party. Hey team, what's one thing you failed at this week? And each person goes around and says the one thing you failed at. And after they say what their failure is, you can either clap if that feels natural, or you can say fail yeah, which is one of my favorite sayings. Fail yeah. If you want to go a step further with this, you could even create failure parties where you create failure boards. So it's not a vision board. These are pictures of things that represent things you failed at in the past month. You could do them quarterly. We used to do these a lot in 2020 and 21 because we were just failing left and right. I think we had about 7 variations of our virtual workshops before we figured out how to do them. It was very humbling. However, by celebrating that failure, we were acknowledging the fact that we weren't just sitting back, we were being resilient, we were getting back up, and we were trying again. So, step 2 in your framework is to build psychological safety. Now, step 3, oh, I love this. Strengthen your real-time collaboration. Now, let me say this. Quick thinking and trust are critical when you are facing challenges. And I will say when you are faced with a high pressure situation, which I know many of you are, and you're constantly battling high pressure situations with your team on a daily basis, you have to trust not only yourself, but you have to trust the others around you. So here's an activity pulled from the improv stage that you can take back with your team to try. It's called supportive scenes. So one person will throw out a challenge to the group and the team yes ands solutions through improvisation. So it could look something like this. Let's say I go to my team and say, I'm having a challenge really fitting in all the things I need to do in a workday. And the team may say, yes, and you could block off your calendar. Yes, and you could theme out your days so that you're working in chunks and blocks of things that you need to do at the same time are happening versus just sporadically doing things across the course of a day that are all over the place. Yes, and you could make sure that you block off some space for yourself on your calendar so your blocks don't get eaten up with clients or with team meetings. This activity, supportive scenes, allows you to take conversations further. You're using that concept of yes and to carry conversations forward. You're using all of your imagination here. And I really encourage teams to go pie in the sky. Because when you go pie in the sky, things really get good. And there might be one little idea and this cacophony, if you will, of 70 really off the wall ideas that you use and may lead you down a different path. So I want to encourage you to strengthen that real-time collaboration and do a simulation of this in the beginning of a weekly meeting so that when the time comes that you do need to think quickly in a high pressure situation, you already have it in your bones to do it. All right. All right. Step 4 in this 4-step building a resilient team framework. You're going to encourage play. Shocker, I know, to build connection. Now, play fosters creativity. It fosters innovation. It fosters problem solving. And I will tell you, the more I lean into play in my day-to-day life, the more fun it is. And what if we were to measure the amount of success that we have in life, not on the number in our bank account, not on the number on the scale, by the measurement of fun that we're having in a day. Wouldn't life be different? So I have an activity for you where you can encourage play with your team, and it's called Last Word, Best Word. And this is a super fun exercise where each response must start with the last word of the previous sentence, reinforcing your listening skills. So it would start like this. You would get your team to break out into partners. And partner one would talk about something that they have going on. Let's say maybe their upcoming weekend plans. And so let's say I'm partner one. I would say this weekend I am going to a friend's wedding. The last word of my sentence was wedding. So my partner is going to use that last word to start the first word of their sentence. So they would be like, weddings are so fun. I love to get down on the dance floor. And then I would have to use that last word to start my sentence. So floors are hard. I had a big spill on a hardwood floor the other week, and now I have a bruise on my knee. And partner two would say, knees are for slapping. This show's hilarious. Something like that. You get the drill. So this right there encourages play because we're getting silly, we're laughing, we're using really funny last words. So the person next to us has to use them to start their sentence, but we're connecting. And what happens in that connection is something that is undescribable. In that connection, you start to trust. You start to feel that real-time collaboration take place. You feel that psychological safety. That yes and mindset is inner working between your dialogue. So that, my friends, is your 4-step framework. Let me go over it one more time for you in sequential order. Here we go. Step 1, embrace the yes and mindset. Step 2, build psychological safety. You can use that failure party, that failure celebration as your activity. Step 3, strengthen your real-time collaboration. Use the activity's supportive scenes, as I mentioned. And step 4, encourage play to build connection and use the activity last word, best word to do so. Now, if you're sitting here thinking, okay, this sounds great, but how do I actually make it happen with my team? Don't worry, my peep, I've got you. Because this is exactly what we do in our team building and collaboration workshop. Now, it's not going to be this 4-step framework. We got a whole other framework, but we do activities and we do real-time conversations and debriefs just like we did today. So whether it's in person with up to 100 people for 2 hours or it's virtual with up to 50 people for 90 minutes, our seasoned improv facilitators will take your team through high energy activities that prove one thing. This is our thesis statement: showing up plus support equals collaboration. Your team will learn how to use communication as a tool to move forward in a positive way. Your team will learn how to create supportive relationships that work in partnership with cross-functional teams. And they will most importantly have fun while doing it. So if you're ready to transform how your team works together, you can go to our website, learntoimproveit.com, to learn more. Again, that's learntoimproveit.com to learn more. So now that you've got your 4-step framework, I want to just take you back to a time in my own life or your own life, March of 2020. My business was 100% at that time an in-person improv training, improv-infused talent development company. And it was suddenly completely shut down. The completely human-to-human, the completely face-to-face, the completely person-to-person experience that we had created had no virtual leg to stand on. Now, we could have panicked, which we did. I'm not going to lie to you. There was panic. And that panic could have allowed us to shut down. But instead, we did what this 4-step framework and improv teaches us to do. We said yes and. We experimented. We failed. We celebrated that failure. We tweaked. We kept going. And what started as a terrifying, when I say terrifying, I mean deeply traumatic challenge, turned into a whole new way of reaching people virtually, literally all over the world. We are now a global company because we were forced to innovate. Something we never thought was possible allowed us to take a back seat to our own limiting beliefs and drive this business forward in a whole new way. So this same lesson applies to you and your team. Resilience does not come from perfection. It comes from how you respond to imperfection. So here's what I want you to take away from today, my friends. Resilience isn't something either you have or don't have. It is something you build. And just like in improv, the more you practice, the stronger your team becomes. So here's my challenge for you. You know, I love to give you a little homework. I want you to pick one of these improv activities and try it in your next team meeting. See what happens. And if you want a full-scale experience that will transform how your team collaborates, you know where to find us. And if you love this episode, let's keep the conversation going. I would love for you to connect with us, share your biggest takeaways. All of the ways to find us are in the show notes. And don't forget to make your workday a little more playful. Keep playing, keep leading, and remember, every workday is a play date waiting to happen. The world needs that special it that only you can bring. I'll see you next time.